Hello, and welcome to the Movie Mouth Film and TV podcast. This week, we'll be discussing the latest movie news, film trailers, and new release reviews with Golden Globe's darling Nomadland, and Eddie Murphy coming to us once again as Prince Akeem in Coming to America. On top of it all, every week we discuss a classic film in our Video Store Corner section, and this week we'll be heading back in time with Jean-Claude Van Damme, legs akimbo, in the Peter Hyams directed time travel actioner Timecop. This is Miles, and as ever, I'm joined by a gentleman who famously once said, "Drainage! Drainage!"
Miles, you boy, drain dry. I'm so sorry. Here, if you have a milkshake, and I have a milkshake, and I have a straw. There it is. That's a straw, you see. You watching? And my straw reaches across the room, and it starts to drink your milkshake. I drink your milkshake. I drink it up!
It's Daniel Philview himself. Hi, Phil. How's my milkshake?
I've heard it brings all the boys to the yard.
It's so true. What is that?
Wow, that was a good intro. Thanks for that.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. So, Phil, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you been watching this week?
What? What have we what? What have
What have you been watching this week, Phil?
What have I been watching? I've been watching series 2 of Snowpiercer on Netflix. I quite enjoyed series 1. But this is a lot better already.
Okay.
Series 1 got a bit. In a way, it was sort of like Walking Dead, but without the zombies. It was just like us versus them the whole time. The whole series.
Just walking
on a train. But this is, I'm enjoying this series a lot more. So I think I'm about 5 episodes in now.
Okay.
And then there's a couple of series I want to watch, which I'm going to start this week. So there's going to be Your Honor, the new Bryan Cranston drama, which looks really good. And there's also a series starting on ITV over here in the UK, which is it's a new crime drama called Grace, and I think it's based on Peter James' books, and he's a sort of famous novelist for the Brighton area, which is, as you know, where I'm residing in that area, and it's all filmed all around here, so all in Brighton and all just around near my house, basically on the cliffs and around. So it's always interesting, isn't it, when you see an area you know really well, but in a drama or something. Oh yeah, film like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Very good, very good. Well, we'll have to fill us in on the next episode to tell us how those are. Actually, funny enough, a friend of mine told me Your Honor is very good. She's binging it at the moment.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, you have to watch this for the podcast." So maybe you can give us a small review on that one on the next show. I've been watching quite a lot actually this week, or these last couple of weeks. I finished WandaVision, the MCU series on Disney Plus. No spoilers, slightly underwhelming finish.
Right.
There were some things that maybe a lot of people expected to happen, people that they expected to see that they didn't. But really, really well put together show. And the leads in that were just really, really good. And then I've also been watching another show. This is on Fox or FX. It's called Dave. It's about a real life rapper whose name is Lil Dicky, and it's about his
Dave.
So it's Dave it's actually him. So he's playing himself, and he is this rapper Lil Dicky in real life, and he's kind of a funny rapper, like lurid kind of funny rapper, but he's not a joke rapper,
right?
So it's this really interesting show about like how he kind of found fame and this kind of thing. like borderline fame because you've never heard of him, but like he's fairly, kind of up and coming. And it's a bit like Atlanta, the other FX series. Atlanta meets Entourage. It's really creatively interesting. There's some really cool episodes that are like very like arty and the humor kind of opens up, I would say, towards the later end of the series. But I really, really like this. I mean, there was basically a whole episode about butthole licking and milking tables, which is like
okay,
which was just brilliant. Our younger listeners would absolutely love Googling what that is. So I was watching that, and then also a new animated show on FX. This is The Great North, from the creators of Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
And this is starring Jenny Slate and Nick Offerman, both of Parks and Rec fame. Nick Offerman, you remember, as Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, and Will Forte. And this is a pretty trippy stoner comedy about a family that live in Alaska. It's basically kind of, Family Guy based in Alaska, but it's very grown up. Some of the jokes are very weird. I actually haven't seen Bob's Burgers, but I would imagine that's also a stoner comedy, because this is like, if you're that way inclined.
I love Bob's Burgers. Yeah,
an incredible
I'm a
show.
big Bob's Burgers fan. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this.
This is, it's only 6 episodes in so far. They're releasing them week by week, but I'm really enjoying it, actually. I've watched every one of them so far, and I like the characters straight away. Cool. And Alanis Morissette is in every episode as a kind of Force ghost.
Oh, right. Wow.
Like I said, it's a stoner comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been watching. So let's jump into the news, Phil. What news have you got for us this week?
So I've got one piece of news for you. So this is about the upcoming Bee Gees biopic, which could be very good. Watched a documentary. Yeah, immediately. I watched a documentary on the Bee Gees recently, which was really good. But this is the news that Kenneth Branagh is on board to direct.
Wow.
So that could be really
so Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh, yeah.
Wow.
So he's on board. It's going to be released through Paramount Pictures, and Barry Gibb is on board as an executive producer as well.
Well, he's the only one that's still alive.
The only one left.
Spoiler alert.
And it's written by Ben Elton as well.
Okay.
So recipe for... Oh, come on.
Okay. Didn't he write We Will Rock You?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Just checking. Should we give them our best ha 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 staying alive? Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Ha 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 staying alive.
I think we could be in the film.
I honestly think I could be Robin or Maurice Gibb, and you could definitely
get higher
be Barry.
than that? Can you do higher than that?
It was actually Barry that was the one that got high. He was the one that used to get really high. Do you
Yeah.
know that that HBO documentary you're talking about?
Yeah.
I watched that as well, and it was the sole reason for why I relocated myself to Miami. Because there was this whole moment when they go to the same recording studio as Eric Clapton, don't they? And then they're talking, they're like, oh yeah, we went to this recording studio. And we're like, why don't we just live in Miami? And I was like, watching it, and I was like, this little light bulb went on over my head, and I was like, why don't I just
Did you look in the
live
mirror
in
and go,
Miami?
yeah, why don't you just go to Miami?
Yeah. And then I undid like 3 buttons on my shirt,
And
and
then
like
you
my
kicked
chest
yourself in the
hair
nuts.
grew out, and then I had like these gold chains, and then I kicked myself in the nuts, and I went,
You strutted down the street.
you should be dancing
all the way to the airport. All the way to the airport. With your little suitcase.
with a little case, like Paddington suitcase with little stickers on it,
Strutting.
in like, I don't know, crocodile shoes.
Flares.
Yeah. So anyway, that film's coming out.
Yeah.
In my news, I've got a couple of new movies actually. These were 2 from left field. So I'll start with Ron Howard's new movie, which is called 13 Lives, about the rescue attempt to save 12 soccer players and their coach from a Thailand cave in 2018. You remember these soccer players, these young kids that got trapped in this cave, and there was this international operation basically to try and save them. Well, this has got a pretty interesting cast with Colin Farrell, Viggo Mortensen, and Joel Edgerton all added to the cast. And they're all individual rescuers, who took part in the real life rescuer. I think Viggo Mortensen's actually playing the British guy that went in there, and Joel Edgerton, the Australian guy that kind of went through the caves and everything to save them.
Right.
But really interesting, and also there's a lot of drama in this story because the actual real rescue attempt, someone actually died. There was the Thai Navy SEALs went in to try and save them. And one of them died.
Yeah, I remember.
Sadly, so.
I actually watched a documentary on this quite recently as well.
Did you?
Yeah, on that event, and about the rescue and how they did it. It was amazing, absolutely amazing how they did it.
Wasn't Elon Musk like, let's create like a submarine or something? We'll just send in like these little mini subs and stuff.
Yeah, but it's like the way that it's incredible. The way, if you can, I think it was on like National Geographic or something. But
you're gonna have to send that to me because I'll definitely watch it. It might be on Disney Plus.
Really interesting, and the bravery of the guys that did it was amazing.
Oh yeah,
they could see nothing basically. Anyway,
how did they get that deep into the cave?
Well, they had to dive. How did they get? Oh well, because it flooded while they were in it. Yeah, it flooded while they were in it. So they
this is going to be a good movie. This is going to be a good movie. Yeah. It's been a while since I've really enjoyed a Ron Howard movie, so fingers crossed he pulls one out the bag here. And then Ridley Scott news. So for those of you that follow our Instagram account, earlier this week you will have seen me post our first look at Ridley's new movie, House of Gucci, which is starring Adam Driver and Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga! This follows Adam Driver's Maurizio Gucci, who was the grandson of Guccio Gucci, who ran the famous fashion house in the 80s. This is his actual name. Guccio Gucci. Yeah.
Wow.
Milesy O Miles. Filio Philip. Filio Philip.
Filio fish.
So basically, Adam Driver is Maurizio Gucci, who's the grandson of the guy who invented Gucci. He started running the company in the 80s, and Lady Gaga plays his ex-wife, Patricia Reggiani, who was convicted of orchestrating his murder on the steps of his offices in Italy in 1995. So check this out. This has got an amazing cast. Right. Adam Driver, Lady Gaga, Jeremy Irons, Jared Leto, Jack Houston,
wow,
and Al Pacino.
Jesus, I pulled all the favors getting there. In there.
I'm Guccio Gucci. Want a cup of coffee? I got Gucci coming out of my fucking ears.
One day we'll do a podcast where you don't do the Pacino.
Hoorah! Gucci! Hoorah!
Brilliant.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's not.
The Pacino podcast.
Pacini. Gino, Giannino, Ginelli.
So that's the House of Gucci coming out this year, which just sounds really great. And if you get a chance, check out our Instagram. We posted a really fun looking picture of the two earlier this week. Phil, trailers? You want to jump in there for us?
Yes, I do. I have a couple of quick trailers. So first one is Army of the Dead, which is
starring Armie Hammer.
It's the new Zack Snyder zombie film, which I'm sure you might have got from the title there. But it's about it's about a zombie outbreak. It looks really interesting, actually. It's about a zombie outbreak that happens in Las Vegas, and then there's a group of mercenaries that they take like a gamble, and they venture into the quarantine zone to try and pull off a heist. Mm-hmm. So pulling off a heist while there's a zombie outbreak going on. Right. So Zack Snyder, and it's starring Dave Bautista.
What you could have said is Dawn of the Dead meets Ocean's 11.
I should have said that. Yeah, that was easier.
Run and hide,
Run
zombie.
and hide from the zombies. Hide.
I think it looks great. This movie. It's also
do.
Netflix, so it's going to be bang on your TV screen
Straight in there.
a month.
May 21st. It's on.
There you go. A couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. Has he ever done better? I actually love that movie. Loved it from the moment I saw it.
I liked it. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of the original as well.
I'm not a huge Snyder fan. I like Watchmen and 300. After that, I'm a little bit lost. But this is back to real world. It's going to be interesting to see a Zack Snyder movie that isn't just green screen galore, like all of his other movies have been pretty much since 300.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you're right. But it does look like super heavy on the special effects, but they do look like decent special effects as well.
There's that scene, isn't there, where you see like 100,000 zombies.
100,000, and then like a helicopter falling down a building sideways, and it looks amazing.
Yeah. And Dave Bautista's in it, so
yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. What's the other one I got? So there's another one called this is a bit out there. It's just one I randomly picked up, but it's a film called Golden Arm.
James Bond 007 in.
It's definitely not. I'm going to give you the rundown for this one.
Golden arm with a golden arm. Golden arm.
That's definitely not what it is. Well, I'm going to just ruin your little vision of it there.
You're going to be like, this is the most serious movie that I've ever heard of.
But,
it's an AIDS drama starring children.
It's not, but it is about a tough lady trucker who trains her wimpy best friend to compete in the National Ladies Arm Wrestling Championship.
That just sounded like one of those swear words you see in a movie at like 6 p.m. Like like Die Hard when they'd show it like in the evening before the watershed, and it would be like yippee, and you go yippee-ki-yay, tough lady trucker.
Yeah, it does, like the kid-friendly swear words.
You are one tough lady trucker. I'm so sorry I laughed over that, but
well, that's what it's about. A tough lady trucker who trains her wimpy best friend to compete in the National Ladies Arm Wrestling Championship.
It sounds like Sylvester Stallone's Over the Top, no?
I don't know. I've not seen that, I don't think. Is that about arm wrestling?
You've never seen Over the Top?
I don't think so.
Are you for real?
Do I?
Are you actually? Is this just podcast? This is just podcast fakery?
No, I don't. I can't remember. It doesn't ring any bells. I've got to look it up.
Okay.
I'm doing it now.
Oh my goodness me, ladies and gentlemen. You've never seen Over the Top?
Wait a minute.
There's so much dead air on this episode. It's incredible. It's because my mouth is agape, ladies and gentlemen.
I've not seen it.
You've never seen Over the Top?
Do you know what's funny? Yeah, because it's about a trucker as well, and it actually says in the synopsis on IMDb, tough trucker, but not.
Which is why I just said it sounds exactly like Over the Top starring. So I was just like, what did you think I meant by that?
I haven't seen that, and I immediately want to watch it. I'm going to go now. Is that all right?
What is this movie called?
Can you do
what
this?
Do you call it?
What?
What's this movie called?
This is called Golden Arm.
Okay.
It's got Terry Funk in Over the Top.
It's an incredible movie. I think we need to watch it.
We need to video store corner the shit out of that.
Yes, we do. Coming soon to Video Store Corner. I saw it maybe 7-8 years ago, and I can tell you, Phil, it's brilliant.
I've never heard of it. I've just looked at the
It even has a good theme tune.
Oh my god.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the trailer section's taken a slight diversion this week. I'll bring it back on track. So this was interesting. So this one dropped today, so super recent.
Oh.
This is Oxygen, which is the new film from French director Alexandre Aja, who is returning to the French language horror that made him famous with Switchblade Romance.
Yes, great.
So the director of that, this movie features Melanie Laurent in what appears to be, she's basically kind of trapped in like a CAT scan type chamber.
Oh god!
But wait for it, she's of course running out of oxygen, unless she solves some of the puzzles that are being fed to her through an earpiece.
Oh my god!
So it looks like a mashup of Saw meets Buried, that Ryan Reynolds movie where he was buried alive, if you remember, a few years ago. But for me, Alexandre Aja, he's always promised a lot. For me, his remake of The Hills Have Eyes, if you saw that, I loved. I thought it looked amazing. The suspense was amazing, and it was hilarious. But since then, he's kind of gone a little bit more kind of silly, like animal horror. He did the Piranha 3D movie.
Oh god!
If you remember that, and most recently the alligator like horror movie Crawl. So it's been a while since he's done something, and this does look silly, but who knows? Maybe like returning back to his native, France will bring, something out interesting. And also Melanie Laurent as well, who for me, I haven't seen her in anything really since, like, trying to think about it, since like Inglourious Bastards, like that opening scene. So we shall see if that's any good, and that's coming to Netflix on May the 12th for all you horror fans out there. So, straight into the reviews this week. And when I say into, that was with a number 2. Because, of course, Phil is reviewing Coming to America. This is obviously Hollywood having a habit of long gestating sequels to comedy smashes. And here, 32 years later, Eddie Murphy returns to the Bronx as Prince Akeem. The question is, should this be permitted a tourist visa or denied entry and put back on a plane from whence it came? Phil, what were your thoughts?
Well, as you said, it has been over 30 years. That's mental, isn't it? Since the original and brilliant John Landis directed original was released for our viewing pleasure. I think for me, that still stands out as one of my favorite comedies of all time, let alone like 80s comedies. It's just for me one I always go back to, always happy to watch it. Brilliant, love it. So that's why I think I've got to admit that when I heard that Amazon were, producing a sequel to it, I was torn, is what I was. So on one hand, I was excited at the prospect of seeing those characters coming back again and, seeing what direction they take it in. But on the other hand, I wanted them to leave it alone, as they should with a lot of things that they don't leave alone. But I think the verdict is that it's possibly a bit of both still. So this is directed by Craig Brewer, who you might know from, he did Hustle and Flow, I think in the mid-2000s, wasn't it? And then more recently, he's done Dolomite Is My Name, which I really liked. Movie. Yeah, I really liked. And I think it's the one that's that brought Eddie Murphy back to doing something actually funny that wasn't absolute dog shit for the first time in a long time. So I was quite excited when I knew that he was doing it, because I thought, well, they've worked together before, and he got a really good result as well. Him and with Wesley Snipes as well, who was also in this new Coming to America. So this time around, in a sort of spin on the original, we see Eddie Murphy's Prince Akeem returning, albeit quite briefly, to Queens to find and bring back his bastard son to Zamunda, where he's to be trained as the only son to the heir of the throne. And in a contrast to the originals, sort of, because it had quite a dated gender politics message in the original film, if you look at it now. So in this one, we see the story develop, and it sort of shows challenging the sort of long outdated cultural traditions and highlights the struggles of the women in Zamunda, and trying to fight to be allowed to run businesses and become leaders and be successful in their own right stuff. I think they managed to balance the message of that message along with comedy quite nicely, and there are some jokes and lines in this that they really did hit the spot. In particular, a flashback scene to the original, which I'm not going to go into in specific because it's quite, it's a nice scene and it'd be a shame to spoil it for people that haven't seen it yet. But I think it's cleverly done, a bit odd, but brilliant. It's not all gold, but I don't think you're ever going to be, when you're comparing it against something as highly regarded as I hold the original, you're never gonna beat it, in my view. But I think, Murphy, he's back on form. But I think what I missed about him in this a bit was he's sort of more, because in the original he's quite like innocent and endearing, because he's and he's a bit clueless as to what's going on because he's not used to American culture and stuff.
Yeah.
And in this he's a lot more sort of world
stately, regal.
Yeah, regal and a bit more hard, and
he's not
fine.
as naive. He's not as naive.
No, that's right.
Is he?
Not as naive.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. And you wouldn't be after 30 years of ruling the country or whatever. But I think I missed that about his character, if you know what I mean, from the original. But it's great, it's great all round, like, performances, and Arsenio Hall and Sherry Headley and the rest of the original cast. And also great turns from new characters as well. You've got Wesley Snipes playing General Izzy, who's a bit mental, but he's pretty funny. Jermaine Fowler does a great job as Lavelle, so that's Akeem's son. And Leslie Jones, I think, also does a really good job as Lavelle's mother, Mary, which I think she's brilliant as well. I think the saving grace for it is that there's so many returning characters and in-jokes. It's a proper nostalgia trip to see a lot of the faces again. Some inexplicably, like the barbershop guys. I think we mentioned when we saw the trailer, it's just like, how are they still alive? They look exactly the same as
I think that's the joke, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. But it's brilliant. So it's really good to see that. And I think add to it, it's got a great soundtrack. There's some really good music, like performances in it, live stuff as well. The costumes are fantastic in it, really good. And it's just a lot of fun, really. It's not, it's not perfect by a long shot, but as I said, it's going to be nothing compared to the original, but it's bloody good fun. So yeah, I liked it, but it's not amazing, but I liked it. How about you? What did you think of it?
Did it make you laugh?
It made me laugh, yeah, in quite a few places. There was a lot of bits that didn't make me laugh, but yeah, as I said, I think it did a good job. There were some lines that I wasn't expecting that made me like, sort of
lines or lions.
Both.
I would say that I'm more on the negative side of this, but I do get it. I also like the original. I think I prefer Trading Places to Coming to America, I would say, but we've had that conversation. I think that this was a fairly cynical attempt at a sequel. I think because, as you say, correcting some of the wrongs of the original, I understand. I also do think that when you talk about the female characters in this, they are pretty much sidelined for most of it. Like, for example, Prince Akeem's wife, who we met in the first, movie, she doesn't really even turn up until, about halfway through it. I'm like, oh, so she is in this. Like, she is a character in this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't laugh. But then I was coming back from a skiing trip and I was very badly burned. I was very badly bruised all over my body. So I wasn't in the best frame of mind. But I didn't laugh. I didn't really find it funny. I agree with the character of Akeem. I think he just felt too world weary and, like, a little bit down, a little bit, not kind of up, and they had that chance to kind of bring him in and I think continue the character on, from where he kind of left off. I get the decisions. But yeah, I didn't love this. I hate to say it. And I've read a few reviews of it as well, people that either really liked it or really didn't, and I think sadly for me, I'm more in the I didn't really like it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But the trailer was great.
The trailer was, but maybe they did the old trick, didn't they? They sucked you in for all the good bits.
Yeah, it's like there was that scene, wasn't there, in the middle of like with the son's character, and he's kind of talking to his hairdresser.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Oh, what about these sequels?" And he's like, "Oh, well, they always know. Leave it alone. Never make a sequel. The original's good enough." And I'm just like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you don't say that to make the movie better all of a sudden and just be like, oh, now you can get away with it. Do you know what I mean? Found it all a bit too cynical.
I found and this always grates on me, but the product placement stuff was really well. It was one scene in particular was when
for McDowell's? Are you talking about
for McDowell's? Well, obviously they're talking about McDowell's. Yeah, the McFlurby, but then he talks about Pepsi.
Yeah,
and oh my god, he might as well have just fucking looked at the camera and gone, the delicious taste of Pepsi. It's just like ridiculous.
Akeem, you want a delicious Pepsi?
It's cold and it refreshes me.
It'll burn your throat when you burp a little bit.
It's sterile and I like the taste.
It's sterile. The 5 P's of Pepsi.
Yeah, anyway, but that's aside, fine, whatever.
But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of
the money
rehashed jokes, weren't they? They got the Big Mac, we got the Big Mick. In this one, it was they got the McFlurry, we got the McFlurby.
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think the main thing in it is that it was a shock to me how many of the original cast were in it. Like, it was...
The only one that wasn't was old Soul... Well, sorry, I don't want to ruin it, but Soul Glow.
The Soul Glow guy and and the sister, and the young sister.
Yeah, true.
Spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, but like everyone else, like how many, films 30 years old, really, could they get that much of a cast back into? I think they did a pretty good job. Saying that, though, some of the main characters are also still Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, so I suppose they're...
Yeah. They were good, though. I like that. I like Arsenio Hall being back. Yeah. It was good to see him. I thought Wesley Snipes, as you said, I thought he was, for me, probably the standout. I don't know. Some terrible CGI in this movie, by the way. The kind of CGI that should be burned with fire.
Yeah, some of it,
Some of the... I don't want to say too much, but the de-aging stuff was really good.
Yeah. Well, that's what I didn't want to,
Yeah, we won't go into too much detail. Come on. All right, let's move on. Phil and I are going to fight over this one until the end of time.
They come around and slap you.
Good luck, buddy. You got a plane right ahead of you. So where can our listeners watch this film?
Amazon Prime. It's available
right
on
now.
Amazon Prime right now.
Fan-dabby dozy. Thank you.
Indeed.
So for me, I sat down to watch Nomad Land. This is the third feature from Chloe Zhao. And this basically shows her view on the frailties of the American dream. So a slight departure from Coming to America. Okay. It follows... No one gets chased by a lion in this. It follows Frances McDormand as Fern, who, after losing everything in the Great Recession, embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. This feels very much like a documentary, the way that it's filmed. And that's actually partly true. So this film was made up of mostly real nomads that the film crew and Frances McDormand met on the road. So obviously during this movie, she interacts with them and they regale stories that are actually, stories that actually happen to them. And either through the places that she parks her trailer or the jobs that she picks up on the road. In a few scenes, we actually see her working for Amazon in a pick and pack facility as a fry cook in a diner. And one really interesting moment in reality where McDormand was actually applying for these jobs. And Target offered her a part-time position, like with a fake CV. Yeah,
brilliant.
So this film, it follows many of the kind of alone person dealing with hardships tropes that the likes of Castaway, WALL-E, or Into the Wild introduced. However, a lot less drama here. There's not a huge amount going on in this film. It's quite contemplative or contemplative.
Contemplative, isn't it?
Easy for you to say. So it's very contemplative and more of a character study of what makes people disenfranchised with the system, how they deal with their own personal freedom. So many times in this, characters relay the line that they never want to, quote unquote, sleep under a roof or within a building ever again. A lot of people say this. In essence, they've left the walled confines of society and are making their own way, dealing with their own struggles. Quick sidebar. At one point, Fern passes by a theatre, like a really run-down-looking movie theatre. And on the kind of top line, the strap line outside, it has The Avengers written on it. Director Chloe Zhao's next film, straight after this, that she just wrapped is Marvel's The Eternals, which is part of the MCU Avengers universe. So a little in-joke there for our film nerds. Oh, yes.
Like that.
Where this movie gets interesting is when Fran is introduced to a YouTube video from a nomad guru called Bob Wells. He runs an annual meetup for the middle-aged to elderly travelers, and basically people that have like a kind of stateless existence, they will come together at this place in the middle of the Arizona desert. So Fern travels to meet them and parks up her trailer there, and we're regaled with these real stories from these real people about loss and departed friends and loved ones. And this is where Fran starts to open up as a character. However, for the full 1 hour, 50-minute runtime, rarely do we see Frances McDormand break this kind of hard, stoic, hardy, road-worn exterior. It's kind of a fairly heavy performance. It's only when David Strathairn who is introduced that we remember that this is a narrative movie and not a documentary after all. So this takes Fern in a more familiar movie trope direction for the remainder of the plot. And that it's kind of obvious to see once he kind of arrives as well. You kind of are kind of like, okay, this is a movie. I know where this is going to go now. So it kind of takes it off in a different direction, but it doesn't really have much plot, to be honest. Where Into the Wild made you want to withdraw your funds and burn your possessions before heading out on the road, this feels more like a warning of how high and dry society will leave you if you let the house stake your next gamble. And, you know, a lot of people out there that are kind of approaching retirement age that don't have a backup plan and they've relied solely on their social security or their national insurance and pensions. This is a fucking horror movie. This is what could happen if if the state doesn't fund you, doesn't look after you, you lose all your money and you have no other choice. It's also a tale about loss and how we adapt to overcome and kind of shedding the old traditions and mementos and finding value in the moments that make life beautiful. So, although I don't think this is the best film of the year so far, I do think it's a wonderful character study and a decent warning sign for us all that life can take dramatic turns at any time. And also, what size of bucket you should piss and shit into, depending on how big your camper van is.
A valuable lesson.
A valuable lesson. Key takeaway. Nomad Land can be seen on Hulu in the US and in cinemas internationally, and it gets a recommendation from the Movie Mouth podcast. Yes. Phil.
Yes.
It's time for this.
Video Store Corner.
Welcome, Philip. Dry your feet. I can hear the rain outside. Dry your feet.
It's absolutely taming it down.
There's a bucket there for your umbrella if you want to pop that in, so it doesn't get the floor wet.
I've just done a shit in the bucket.
What size is it? Was it a 7-gallon or a 5-gallon?
Oh, it's a 5 because that's all I could fit in my camper van.
Perfect. By the way, if you have back problems, I recommend a 7-gallon bucket, as told to me by Frances McDormand in the movie Nomadland. Okay. So, welcome to the video store corner section of this week's podcast. You've
got in here.
There's quite a few tapes, and a lot of them are from the 90s. A lot of them starring action superheroes, whatever.
Action superheroes.
Superstars.
My favorite.
There's quite a few over there in the JCVD section, which is a new format. It's somewhere in between JVC, VHS, and DVDs, but it's called JCVD. Please take yourself over there and find something to rent. What would you like to rent?
I'll go and have a look. I think I found one.
Sorry, Young, you're going to have to speak up. You're right on the other side of the video shop now.
Oh.
You're just talking like you were next to me.
Oh, sorry. You're ruining the illusion. I think I found one.
Oh, you have? What is it? I can't, my old eyes. Who's that on the front?
I think he's Belgian. And I think he's called the Muscles from Brussels.
Le Muselle de la Bruxelles.
De la Bruxelles. Yeah, that's him.
Oh, what's the movie called?
Timecop.
Ah! 1994's Timecop, directed by Peter Hyams, an end-of-days Outland director. When mankind perfects time travel, the government establishes the Time Enforcement Commission to thwart criminal attempts to alter the timeline. Police officer Max Walker, here played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, is recruited by TEC commander Matsukas, played here by Bruce McGill, but soon finds his investigation of Senator Aaron McCumb, played by Ron Silver, being thwarted by elements within the government. When Max Walker's wife Melissa, here played by Mia Sara, is attacked, he must travel across time to rescue her and save the future.
Across time?
I mean, when you say across time, what you basically mean is over the last 10 years, because Jean-Claude Van Damme very rarely leaves the 20th century.
He can't go forward.
You can't go forward because that's not written yet. But
No.
he never goes back beyond the 1930s or something?
20s? Yeah, I think it was the 20s.
Do you know what I noticed
30s.
about this film? Jean-Claude Van Damme never goes back to a time when the special effects would have to come into effect and be made. He basically goes to times that still look like today.
It's true. It's true. He spends most of his time in 1994 when it's actually 2000.
He spends a lot of time in 1994 and 2004.
Yeah. When I say it's actually 2004, it's 2004 in the movie, but the movie was made in 1994.
Here's a question for you. Did that plot that I just read out, does that make sense based on your idea of this film?
Yes.
Because
No.
for me, I had no idea what was going on for most of this film, and this kind of does explain it quite well.
And we've got to explain in this that you hadn't seen this. This
I've
was
never
my
seen.
It's my choice, wasn't it? This one.
Yeah.
And I've seen it a few times, but not for a long time.
Hmm.
And
A
I'm
colleague of
pleased you
mine
watched.
actually asked me today. He said, "What are you?" He's American, so he said, "Hey, so what are you? Hey, what are you reviewing on the old podcast?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I've never seen it. Timecop." And he was like, "Fuck off! You've never seen Timecop?" I was like, "Yeah, I've never seen it." He got really angry at me, and then he said,
So
and he went, "You should do. Do you do any Dan Aykroyd?" And I went, "Yeah, we do actually. We've done a few." And he went, "You should do Spies Like Us." I was like, "Well, thanks for listening to episode 19 featuring Spies Like Us in the video."
in your face, whoever your name
Yeah,
is.
so fuck you, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, fuck yourself. Listen to 19.
So no, I'd never seen this, and I remembered like vividly it coming out. I remember the trailer. I remember seeing it in the video stores, and I have no idea. I loved Van Damme movies at this time. I have no idea why I've never seen it.
For me, this is like the best Van Damme movie as well.
I was going to ask you this: top 3.
This,
Okay.
Universal Soldier,
Yes.
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
Or
Would you have Hard
Kickboxer.
Target?
Or
I would have
Kickboxer,
had.
though.
I would have.
Oh, Hard Target. I forgot about Hard Target.
I know.
He's
Bow
got
and arrow.
such a
killer.
mullet in Hard Target as well.
Incredible mullet.
Oh, and he goes off that. He does that thing off the motorbike.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe Hard Targets.
I think it might be better than Bloodsport. I think Hard Target might be better than Bloodsport as a movie. Bloodsport. Bloodsport. It's like an hour and 8 minutes long or something. Like, I watched it fairly recently. I was like, "Wait, what? It's finished? It's like an hour and 8 minutes
It's like
long."
watching an episode of The Simpsons.
It really was.
It's just done in a flash.
So, speaking of Timecop, the movie that we're talking about, you'd seen this before, but it was a while back, right?
Yeah. Like we're talking probably a good. Probably I've seen it
good
within the
while.
last 10 years, but yeah, years.
So you had some memories. I had no memories of this movie. What would you say is the best thing about this movie?
What are we talking like? We're not talking about favorite scene or anything. We're talking about
Whatever you want. What's the best thing about this movie?
From a technical, right? Without going into the cheesy stuff and stuff yet. There's some really good technical stuff in this, like visual effects wise. Because I watched. No, I'm
Really?
not joking. There's in the scenes where, because there's certain scenes in the film where the same character meets himself in the past. So
Mhm.
the future self meets his past
Yeah.
self.
And one of them is
And
incredibly darker coloured in the
They
film.
are because of the way they've had to do it. But did you notice though And it's funny because I actually watched a video on this explaining how they did it a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
But there's a scene where Senator McComb meets his past self,
McComb.
and he actually passes himself a piece of paper.
Yes.
And you might not have picked up on it, how clever it looks, but it's a really good special effect. And I think it turns out that if you look at it closely, and it's only because I'd seen the video on it, otherwise you wouldn't notice, but they superimposed like an arm in there.
Okay.
It's like there's some really clever special effect stuff going on. I know it looks a bit janky sometimes.
Yeah, like for example,
the time.
For example, it looks great until he stands up and dusts himself off. The scene where the lorry, where Jean-Claude Van Damme appears on a road in front of a rushing lorry that's speeding towards him,
terrible.
and he ducks underneath it.
Then.
Looks great, but then it does like this 2-minute scene of him then standing up and dusting himself off on this road
against the blue screen,
basically against the blue screen.
Yeah, I know. There's some
sensitive jerks.
There's some bad stuff, but there's some really good stuff in it as well.
Yeah, I have to say, can I just say, I'm just gonna go all out there. Yeah. I fucking loved this movie. Yeah. Will be in my Miles Gets Home from the Pub rotation.
Stick on Timecop.
It absolutely blew me away. I don't want to get too hard on it. I don't want to get too hard target on it.
But I loved it. Nice one. Thing is, I love the concept of it. That there's a police force that goes through time to stop criminals
who also are able
crime.
To go through crime.
It's amazing, and this is based on a graphic novel series.
Mm-hmm.
They've also made a TV series of it, and I think in development is a new version of this, which they don't need to do.
I mean,
I'd
still watch it.
I've never watched a TV series. I'm not really interested, but this is great. There's so much they could do with this as well if they did like a really good series.
Kind of weird it wasn't bigger than it was. The only thing I would say is that there's not really a lot of time travel in this.
There's not. When they do time travel, it's literally by 10 years.
Yeah, it's we'll go back to a time where we don't have to recreate, an old country and western saloon, or and that's basically what they do. Or
we haven't got the costume budget for that.
No, and we've looked at another movie through time recently, and I like with Highlander, obviously. I feel like this it's so kind of low budget but high impact. Do you know what I mean? That's the only way I can kind of say this movie. It's fairly low budget, but they did the absolute best they could have done and dressed it up. But oh my god, what an incredible movie, and what an incredible script, which is hilarious.
It's
by
brilliant.
The way,
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of the most knowing scripts ever. It knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
So let's say best lines. What would you say?
Do you know what? Mine's not even from a main character. Mine's from a
Most
guy
of
you
mine
see
aren't either.
Right. So
is it from the opening scene?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's from.
All right. Is it from the shopping mall? Is it from the shopping mall?
No, it's when they go back to the 20s or wherever it is. They're in they're in the offices of the thing, and
it looks like the Chrysler Building, doesn't it? That's what it looks like.
It does look like the Chrysler Building, yeah. So it's so that era, America, there's the police on the street, and there's been an incident, and stuff happens, and then at the end of it, a guy falls off the roof and onto a car, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Right. Which is great. Yeah. And it looks really good actually when that happens.
Yeah.
But it's the fact, right? And it's comedy, but I don't think it was meant to be, because it's oddly serious but hilarious. The camera zooms really close up to the policeman's face, right? And he just goes,
who's just sitting on the side of the sidewalk.
In this really weird accent, the policeman just goes, he looks at the guy who's just landed on the car, and he goes, "Tomorrow might have been a brighter day." Then he just cuts off.
Do you know what I think this was? Did you see who produced it?
No.
Our old friend from Darkman, Sam Raimi.
Was it? Oh, yes.
So
I did see it in the credits. I forgot. Yeah.
I have this weird feeling that Raimi added some Raimi-isms like that.
Oh, that would make complete sense.
Up. Yes.
Yeah. It just went straight in his face.
It really did.
Tomorrow might have been a brighter day.
Yeah, doesn't he say something when the guy's falling out of the because the same guy is falling, and then he goes through time, and he misses, and he disappears, and then he comes back.
And then he comes
falls through
back
the
in. Yeah, they
Does
put
he
him
say
back in.
Jeez, bye, Jeez, Mary, and Joseph.
or something like that?
yeah. It's really weird.
There are some choice lines for me.
Yeah.
We'll do a trade off because I've got a few. Have you got a few?
No.
Okay.
I'll just say that one,
Opening
'cause
scene. Can I just say, when I watched this, I wasn't, let's just say, of my right mind. Let's just say.
Right.
But I also had the munchies. Let's put it that way, and then people
All right.
will be able to discern what I meant by that.
Fair enough.
There's this opening scene. The opening scene of this incredible time travel movie is in a Senate boardroom, right? And some guy walks in a flasher Mac and sits down at this table with like generals and like politicians around it, and he's like, he's got this like dossier, and he's like, "Thank you for joining me, gentlemen. Basically, the scientist that's been working for us all these years." I'm like, yeah, he's like, he did this, he did that, he invented the nuclear bomb or something. He's like, well, he spent the last 20 years inventing time travel. And this senator like basically stands up, looks at the camera, he goes, "Time travel? Well, beam me up, Scotty."
Oh yeah, he does.
And then that was brilliant. And then in that exact same scene, this guy like turns to me and goes, well, like they've just all of a sudden they're convinced. He's like, well, how much is this going to cost? And he's like, more than a little and not enough to cost too much.
Yeah. Like, what? What
like,
did he just
wait,
say?
what?
Does that even make sense?
No. And then he goes, well, let me put it this way, General. Because I think it was the general that asked him. Well, let me put it this way, General. What if Saddam Hussein goes back in time, gets our technology, and Iraq becomes the world's first nuclear superpower?
Oh shit! Yeah, well,
Like
give
the
them all the
time
money
they-
they want.
Saddam Hussein going back in time. I want to see that movie. Please, someone.
Yeah, but I want it to be the Saddam Hussein from Hot Shots.
I will kill you until you die from it, Yankee
Kill you.
bastard man.
Yankee bastard man. Yeah, that's what we need. I'd watch that. I'd pay that. Pay to watch
I'd buy that for $1.
that. I mean, if we're gonna,
Have you got more
I'm gonna-
lines?
No, I haven't got any more. Have you got any other lines
I've
you
got
want to share?
a couple more. I've got a couple more. What about the
Go
scene in the shopping mall where Van Damme walks up behind his wife and like as if he's going to abduct her, and
Yeah,
starts
which is
talking
really
to her
odd.
as if he's going to abduct her.
Yeah.
And she's thinking it's hilarious. And you see this guy. It's the most 80s looking shopping mall you've ever seen, even though it's 1994.
Yeah,
And there's this guy. He's rollerblading
yeah.
through the shopping mall, and he snatches a purse off of an elderly woman. Oh my god, my purse! Come back, young man. And obviously Van Damme snaps into action. And what does he do to stop said rollerblade thief? Well, he kicks out his leg and holds his foot about an inch away from the bag snatchers. And he's like, you just see this close up of this guy just staring at the sole of Van Damme's shoes.
Yes.
And he
But-
goes,
You're gone.
and he says, read this sole. And the guy's like, it says Wolverine. And he's like, well done, kid, you can read, or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was just
I've
this
got a
image
bit
of him
Well,
in front of a
I've got backstory for
1994
that.
Mazda doing a kick.
It
go on.
is a proper the red Mazda in the background
Yeah.
that you could win in the shopping mall.
Yeah.
That scene is a paid advertisement talking about product placement. The company Wolverine, who make boots, so
Wolverine Worldwide, yeah.
Jean-Claude Van Damme was wearing a pair of Wolverine DuraShock work boots, and Wolverine, the company, paid $15,000 to have their boots featured in the film.
$15,000. That doesn't sound like a lot of money.
Well, that's what he said. The executive for Wolverine said that it's less expensive than a trade publication ad. So why not? They got it on screen.
chuck it in the
And
movie.
they even made him read out the title of the bloody company, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So there you go. It's just a big advert.
The 5 W's of Wolverine.
But now I really want to buy a pair of Wolverine DuraShock work boots
Me too.
and shove them in
And just-
rollerbladers' faces.
Yeah, just do like a kick in someone's face and hold it.
Can you
there
imagine
in
me
front
trying to
of
do that in a shopping mall?
I would love to see it. I'd love to see it.
I mean, we both used to work in a shopping mall. It could have
did.
been a possibility about 15 years ago.
We probably would have done that had we watched this film back then. We would.
I
have done
definitely
this.
would. I
We would have
100%
recreated
would have
this
done that.
scene.
It would have been part of my actual job.
I liked it when his wife. I liked it when his wife goes like he rollerblades off or whatever, gives the purse back, and his wife goes, "Oh, what happened?" And he's like, "He's a smart kid. He read my mind." And the wife goes, "With your accent, he'd have to." What a bitch! This poor Belgian guy.
I mean,
he's travelled all the way from Belgium to.
how's her
where are they?
Belgian? Eh?
Where do they? Where's? How's your
Where
fucking
are they?
Flemish?
They're in Washington. They live in
So
Washington.
they're in Washington. Okay. By the way, it's never really understood this film's in Washington because it doesn't look like it's in Washington. But anyway, they're in Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
And this guy has come all the way from Belgium. Okay. And not only has he come from Belgium, but he's somehow passed a citizenship test that lets him become a cop. Not only can he become a cop in America, he can also become a fucking time traveling cop. Okay.
He's the best
And
guy
this
in the world.
woman is busting his chops because of his fucking accent.
When he just saved an old lady having her
Yes.
purse taken.
Yes.
She should go
Yes.
fuck herself.
Yes.
He should leave her immediately.
Amen. Well, didn't you think that she was going to leave him when at the beginning she keeps saying, "There's something I got to tell you, Walker"? Why does she refer to her husband as Walker, by the way? That's his
Because his
surname.
name's Walker.
Yeah.
Walker. Max
Walker.
Walker.
Max Walker.
Brilliant.
Walker, there's something I've got to tell you. He's like, what? He's like, "Oh, can it wait? I've got to go downstairs and answer this telephone." That's actually a very good Jean-Claude Van Damme impression.
That was good. I thought it was the film.
What does my boot say?
Give me $15,000, I tell you.
It says super dry. So yeah, anyway, moving on.
I'm going to mention a scene, and I'm sure I might beat you to this scene. So
Did someone get kicked in the bollocks? Because 99% of the scenes in this were men getting kicked in the testicles.
it's true. It's true. No, I'm going to go about my favorite scene, which is it's the fight scene in his apartment.
Oh, not in the guy's office. Okay,
No,
good.
in his apartment when he's
Yep.
So they catch him off guard. So Van Damme's only wearing his pants, and I mean that in the British sense.
I
of
wouldn't say
pants.
he's wearing underpants or pants. I'd say he's wearing panties.
Why front?
He's wearing what appear to be women's panties. That's
They
what
are
he's wearing.
skimpy. They are
They're
very skimpy.
very skimpy.
Anyway, there's a couple of bad guys in the apartment that tried to attack him, and of course he's Jean-Claude Van Damme, so he basically kicks their ass. He has a massive knife fight with one guy, and he gets a bit cut up or whatever, but then I think he manages to. Does he stab him? I don't know. Whatever. He gets killed, and then but there's another guy who's got like this taser, hasn't he? He's got this taser gun that can reload itself. It's really cool, and he tries to keep getting Van Damme, and what happens is.
Get in Van Damme.
Tries to keep getting him with the
Oh,
taser.
right. I think he tries to get in Van Damme.
Well,
We'll come to this, by the way, because there's quite a few homoerotic moments in this
there
movie.
is. But what happens is, during the fight, for some reason, he's got like an industrial, like office bottle of water in his apartment. Like
a water
cooler.
dispenser, a water fountain.
Yeah, it's a water dispenser, like
He's got a
big,
water
massive
cooler.
bottle of water.
No
He
one
knocks
sent
it
me to
over.
the cooler.
And it falls all over the floor, and the water starts leaking slowly towards the guy with the electric stun gun thing, taser,
Taser.
and of
With
course
the little things that fly out of it.
the fly out. But what does he do, Van Damme? What does he do? He uses one of his absolutely brilliant.
He looks down at the
moves.
water.
He looks
feels
down at
it-
the water.
He feels it
Looks at the
touching his
guy.
naked toes.
Tickling
Tickling his naked toes.
He looks at the guy, and the guy thinks he's got him. He goes to shoot him, but Van Damme does the best move I've ever seen in my life.
Same.
He does the splits, right?
Would you
The
say the
splits,
best, or would you say the most erotic
both?
move?
He does the sexy splits across his kitchen worktop in his pants. And then the other guy shoots his thing, misses him, hits the water, electrocutes himself, dies. But Van Damme's just left there, like, sort of bouncing up and down because he's doing the splits. He's like,
Yeah.
and the camera just cuts to him doing the splits bouncing up and down in
Brilliant.
his pants on his kitchen worktop.
It's like you see his bum cheeks just jiggling, don't you, in his little panties.
And flexing.
It was, honestly, I had an awakening. I think I might have had an awakening.
There's been an awakening.
That's a good scene.
That's an amazing scene.
That's probably the most iconic moment, isn't it, from this movie? I would say.
Yeah, I mean that shot gets. I've seen that, like the GIF of that, of him on the worktop a lot.
I've got to say, I love the bit when he goes back to his old partner's. He goes back in time to catch his old partner, basically robbing some company, and he's like working in an office, isn't he, on top of the Chrysler building that we talked about earlier. And his partner calls in the security, and you get these two like Irish, like 60-year-old like boxers that like lumber in the room, these giant guys. And one of them puts up like his Queensbury regs, fist, and he's like about to box his ears kind of thing. And he goes, "Did I tell you I went 10 rounds with John L. Sullivan himself?" And as he puts up his arms, Jean-Claude Van Damme just fucking kicks him as hard as he can in the balls. The guy just like goes, "Oh!" And then he kicks him in the back of the head. And he just goes bang down on the floor.
He goes the other guy through a glass table.
He goes through a glass table. He had this wonderful line, and then he just ends up fucking smacked through this table. And it's really like violent, this movie, and then but brilliantly so, like Raimi-like violence. And then there's the scene in that same scene later on. He grabs I think it's a billiards cue off the wall, and he hits this guy with it. The other guy,
it's a lamp. It's a lamp.
It's a wooden part of it. That's it. He hits the lamp. All the lamp stuff comes off, and he's just got this wooden stick. And he hits this guy, and it's like really like in the sound effects department, and it goes on about 50 times. It's like, and it's just like cutting, really quick cutting. And this guy's like, "Oh, hey, oh, ah," like. And it just goes on. I absolutely loved. I was crying with laughter watching that scene.
Brilliant.
I also like the scene in the control room of the Time Police, where you see his best friend, the guy that runs it. Actually, you see a woman. You see a woman laying on a bed, kind of naked, like looking at the camera. And I have to say, in the frame of mind I was in, I was like, "Is this happening, or is this something that's happening to me?" Do you know what I mean? Am I imagining this? And because she's like breaking the fourth wall, looking down the camera, "Hey, baby. Hey, sexy." Anyway, we then see that obviously it's this guy in the control room who's got a VR headset on, and it gets ripped off his head. And the leader of the Time Police just walks up to him and goes, "Damn it, Ricky, I catch you fucking that machine again, I'll break your neck." Great line.
And do you know what's weird about that though, right? I thought of that at the time. It's like that guy's doing that at work, sitting next to other people.
He's very much so around other people.
Yeah, like at his desk.
By the way, he works for the police.
Yeah, also he's a professional.
What about freeze, Agent Walker? Do you know how inappropriate that word is? Do I look frozen to you? You look like shit to me. Also, other scene, the most homoerotic. So I got to say, when I was watching this, I didn't realize that JCVD's old partner that he captured in that, in the 1930s. I didn't realize, 1920s. I didn't realize that he had given up the senator. Okay, so I didn't realize when the senator, for no apparent reason, comes to visit the Time Police in their HQ, and they're walking around.
Yeah,
Jean-Claude Van Damme keeps looking at him really longingly and suspiciously, and the senator is aware that he may know something because they've caught this guy. Yeah, that obviously he sent back in time to steal loads of money, and so the senator's kind of eyeing him up. And I was just sitting there, and I didn't know the connection between the two. I'm like, why are these guys just staring at each other?
Why are they just staring at each other and talking weirdly about knowing things?
Yeah. He's like, "So do you know about your partner?" He's like, "Yeah, I know all about your partner."
What would you do if you found him?
Yeah. He goes, this is the bit at the end. And they're looking at each other, and he's like, it culminates in him. He goes, "So I hope you keep trying to get your man, Walker." And then Walker looks at him and he goes, "I never quit." And then the senator just smiles at him, and he smiles back and then arches his eyebrow. And then it's just so scene. Weird. And I was like, what is going on in this movie? And then I see Jean-Claude Van Damme do the splits in his tiny itty bitty panties.
In his pants, yeah.
And I'm like, you've changed me. But this is an incredible movie. In terms of the sci-fi elements, what were your favorite sci-fi based elements in this?
I think, I don't know. I mean, the whole the way they go back in time is a bit weird, isn't it?
It's really weird.
Weird car. I mean, the cars in it for a start, they made one prop car.
Let's just explain. Hang on. Let's just explain. How do they go back in time, Phil?
Well, they get inside a triangular spaceship.
They get inside a big triangle that's on train tracks.
On a train track, and it's got a Stargate at the other end. And they basically just, press some buttons on a machine, and then they get launched into
and past. As they speed up, so they hit a certain speed, a bit like Back to the Future, and then they scream in agony.
Disappear. Yeah, it looks horrible. It looks like really painful to go back in time.
Yeah.
There's some weird effects going on.
There's that scene as well. So they just basically, they do that, right? But this is the weird thing. When they arrive in the past, not like Back to the Future, let's say, where Marty comes back in the DeLorean. When they go back in the past, bear in mind they've been sitting in this weird spaceship. They're just falling. So they just fall through
what
time.
Happens to the spaceship? Because they arrive back in the spaceship when they go back to the present.
They're just they just appear and land on the floor. Oh!
They fell in the water, didn't they?
Yeah, they fall in the water. One time he lands in front of a truck and he has to duck down. One time how did they make the guy who is found guilty of stealing from the past? Yeah. How do they make him fall off the side of the building? Did they put him in the machine and push him back in time?
Push him back in.
So that he is now... And then have to triangulate that location, or did they just
that was quite exact? Considering they couldn't even put them on the fucking pavement, they put them in the middle of a lake.
Right. Here's a question for you. You just sentenced this guy to death. Why are you putting him back in time and firing him off the side of a fucking building?
Expensive. That's an expensive way to. Well, because they want the 20s to clear it up, don't they?
It's a very expensive thing. It's also really fucked up when you think about it.
Also, if you think about it, the whole point of them going back in time is to stop things being altered in the future, right? And causing, like a ripple effect on time. So
what do they do?
Sending a guy so he suddenly appears out of nowhere and falls off a building that they all see and witness.
This is what I'm talking about.
He just appears and then lands in a car.
This is what I'm talking about.
I don't think they do that.
Here's another question for you. Jean-Claude Van Damme goes back in time, comes back into the future, and he's fixed something, comes back into the future, and everyone's a little bit different. Oh, I don't know who you are. You're not my best friend. How the fuck was the decision made for him to go back in time in the first place if he no longer
didn't know who he was properly? Oh, you've raised all these things.
But you know what?
I can't.
So here's the thing. I watched this once, and I wasn't of my right mind. I watched it again today.
Yeah.
And I got all these little nuances.
You were like, what?
I was like...
I've got questions now.
I was like, I've got serious questions after this movie.
But before you were like, you just went on for the ride.
Yes. Did you cry with laughter at the end when Jean-Claude Van Damme's wife is on the roof and it's pissing down with rain and there's a villain that's just stood there and something happens to her? I think she slips and she rolls, but she doesn't just roll off the roof and then hit someone. She slips, slides down the side of her roof, slides down another part of the roof, falls up against the chimney, slaps her head on the chimney, and then falls forward and rolls down the gusset between the roof and the chimney. Bounces off of that, grabs the gutter breaks, she falls and then hits the guy, and then the guy falls off the roof as well.
And she shot him in the nuts.
While
that was happening.
Yes. And I was like, why is this going on so long? Why is she still fall? I walked away. I went to the toilet. I came back and she was still falling off the roof.
I think we think differently about this. Because I just appreciate the stunt performance in all of that. I love stunts like that.
I don't get me wrong. I loved this. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so funny. I was crying with laughter the first time I watched it. She's fallen off that roof for a long bloody time. Honestly, you watch it.
It's true.
It's like...
It's true. She was. There's lots of sections to that roof.
Yeah.
Yeah. and some strong guttering as well.
It's a very strong guttering in that. A bloody good job, guttering job on that house.
Guttering job.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought about it was that it's so. You were talking about the sound design earlier on,
Yeah.
like with the thing. The punches in this are really bassy.
Yeah,
Like
the kicks
sound,
are even
like,
more bassy.
Yeah, it's like crazily loud, like the punches and stuff. But I think it adds to it. I really like it.
I think that's a Raimi thing. I feel like he's gone in
Yeah.
and done something on this.
Yeah,
I really do.
reckon so. Do you want some trivia? I haven't got too much, but I've got a few bits about it.
That's all right. I've got 10% battery left, so.
Oh, right, okay.
Shutting down. Goodbye.
Shutting down.
Goodbye, R2D2. Fluent in over 5 million forms of communication.
You need an oil bath.
I'll work on that impression. That wasn't great. Carry on.
So, when Jean-Claude Van Damme visits the hospital to locate Fields, Agent Fields, that is,
who he has an
film.
affinity with for no apparent reason in my book.
Yeah.
No idea. Turns out to be bad. Why does he care about her so much?
Yeah, I don't know. No idea.
Really
Absolutely
annoying.
No idea. Anyway, he goes back to locate her, and he opens a refrigerator full of vials of blood. And the vial on the right-hand side is labelled MacReady, which is a nod to The Thing, which I really liked.
Shit.
That is a cool little...
That is a cool thing.
I like that. Apparently, 2004... Max Walker's hairstyle was partially influenced by Wolverine from the X-Men comics.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you know
partially.
what? When you say his hair, you mean his fucking wig that he's wearing.
That wasn't a wig.
It 100% was a wig. Don't you remember him in 1994? You can see his actual roots.
When he had a haircut.
No, but you can see his actual roots in his hair.
No, you are right.
And when it rains, his hair gets all slick and it's all see-through. But when Max Walker from 2004 gets wet, his hair just looks exactly... You see the rain rolling off it like a duck's back.
It's true.
It's like someone Scotch guarded him. He's fully waterproof. You could drop an entire bottle of wine on his head and it wouldn't
He's got
stain.
a Gore-Tex forehead.
Really? Yeah. That's the name of our next movie, isn't it?
Gore-Tex
forehead.
That sounds
the
good.
movie.
I'd watch that. What else have I got? There's one. It just says in the fight scene. So when you've got when in the fight scenes for the last act of the film, Jean-Claude Van Damme's stunt double was used to create the illusion of the younger Max Walker. So they just used the stunt double as well.
Oh, they didn't fucking clone him. Oh, what a surprise!
That's a shame, isn't it? And the same for Senator McComb as well. I just realised how stupid that bit of fucking trivia is.
That was a really fucking bad trivia.
Did you know that instead of using another Jean-Claude Van Damme, they use someone that looks like Jean-Claude Van Damme for this?
Instead of going back in time
and bringing him back to the future, they used someone that just looks like him a bit.
Wow. Well, thank you for that one, Phil.
That's all right. I could have stopped there.
Jean-Claude Van Damme wasn't actually duplicated, and there weren't two Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He wasn't. I'm sorry. That was a rubbish.
Honestly, next week you go up your game a little bit.
I'm sorry. There wasn't much. I rely on it, and I couldn't do it.
I look forward to your trivia. Our listeners look forward to your trivia.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Can we just say, by the way, you mentioned the cars earlier. That car at the end, I think it's the first time you really see a car in this film. Like you see the interior of a car a lot, but you don't often see the outside, do you?
You see it driving outside his house, and then just in the
right
car lot, like the parking lot of the police building.
Yeah,
But all they are the most 90s looking boxy cars. With
they look like Clark
onto
Griswold's like family car, like the station wagon with like the wood panel on the side.
Yeah, but then
it's got like
bits of
weird
polystyrene glued onto it.
Polystyrene blocks all over it. Yeah. And it's just a real disconnect.
They look like the shittest future cars you'll ever see in your life.
Yeah, like the end scene is this old house where he lives, and he's just driving home, I guess, to see his wife. But it's just you just see him driving this. You just see this car pull up to this old house, and it's the final scene as the camera pans out, and you just see this weird looking future car next to this like normal house. So stupid.
Yeah, it looks.
I was laughing so much. I love this film. It's definitely now in my top 3 JCVD, which is crazy because I used to love him as a kid. and I highly recommend it. I highly
Massively recommend Timecop. You got to watch it. It's great fun.
One thing I did want to say to our listeners is we are now going to be publishing our video store recommendation, video store review of the week. So we'll be pushing that out on our social channels so that if anyone wants to watch that movie in time for our podcast coming out, it's there for you to do so. Thank you very much for listening. Phil, any last words from you?
No.
So join us on the next Movie Mouth podcast, which... Okay, goodbye.
join us next week. Bye-bye then.